Hey everybody, welcome to the Zapple Test Automation Meetup for June of 2022. I am your host, Paul Grossman. I got the funny hat on here because I'm also known as the Dark Arts Wizard on Twitter, and I like to tweet about everything, all test automation associated. Anything you try and stump the automation engineer, hit me up on Twitter. I love doing that and talking about stuff. I'm really happy and really pleased to be invited to speak here with Zapple Tech. And today we've got two great speakers. I got Mario Cruz, who's coming up in just a couple of minutes here. He's going to be talking about 5 things that set outstanding test automation engineers apart from the rest of them. And not just a silly hat, okay? It's more than that, And we also have Symon Storozhenko, Stereozoke, I'm going to try. I'm going to do that. I tried it 3 times. We're going to have a little. We'll try and get through past these things here. Yeah, Symon is going to be speaking to us and talking about automation testing with Playwright and Python, and so we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to tell you a little bit about Marco, what he's doing. He's been an automation engineer for 8 years, and he is the founder of Automate Now. And basically what Automate Now does is it basically helps aspiring SDETs to become the best test automation engineers they can be. SDETs, in case you're not familiar with that term, it's been around for a little bit of a while. SDET, that is a software development engineer in test. So that's our title, and we strive to be the best ones that we can be as we go along. He does lead small to medium-sized teams. He's worked in e-commerce, he's worked in engineering, and he's also worked in insurance. And there's one other thing, is that he is also a U.S. Navy combat veteran. And Marco, when we get on there again, I will say it again once we start talking a little bit. Thank you very much for your service. We all appreciate everything that you and the men out there and the women in the Navy and in the armed forces do for us each and every day. We really appreciate that. So a little bit about, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Symon. We'll get a little bit more deeper into him when Symon comes up, but Symon actually is an expert in a lot of different languages: Java, JavaScript, Python. He's worked in Selenium and Playwright, and he's going to tell us a lot more about Playwright. There's a lot of different frameworks out there. Playwright is actually a really big one that's going on today. And we'll talk a little bit about programming languages and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with him. One of the other things I'll tell you about is, well, who am I? Well, I'm this guy. I'm Paul Grossman. I'm the Dark Arts Wizard, and we'll just take off the silly hat for a little bit, become a little bit more professional here. And basically what I've been doing is I've been a SDET, software test automation engineer, for about 20 years. It's been 20 years. And by the way, guys, there's an old saying that says, if you find a job that you love, you will never work a day in your life. I found that job 20 years ago. I've loved every minute of what I've been doing. So I am very, very happy to do what I do. It's basically magic tricks. And in fact, if you look back over here, I actually have a couple of magic tricks sitting around over here. Basically, automation is very much a magic trick. So if you're, if you're ever working with a deck of cards, and it's basically like doing that. Basically just working with a deck of cards. You're pulling out stuff and you're doing little magic tricks and stuff like that, and then putting them back in. So you've got a deck. You take your deck, and then you basically just put your deck back in a box like this, and we'll see. It's just a cool thing to do when we're looking at this. And the next thing you know is that it's empty box. This isn't really this is kind of cool, but automation is basically magic. That's all it is. It's I'm going over and testing what I do without ever having to touch the keyboard. Watch my hands never leave my pockets while I'm sitting there testing our automation, testing our API endpoints, making sure we're getting our messages back and forth, being able to ensure that our page is being built and stuff like that. I have developed a technique called class switching, and I call it class switching, but in the real world we call it self-healing objects. So in every framework that I build, and I build them in all sorts of different languages and tools, I basically have self-healing objects that even if your CSS or your XPath locator is not correct, it takes 3 shots at it to try and figure out how to do it correctly. Hopefully I'm not spoiling anybody else's presentation, because I think this is a kind of cool thing to talk about. When I mentioned tools, I've worked in UFT, I've worked in Selenium, I've worked in WebDriver IO currently, and I'm doing that for guaranteed rate, which is the best mortgage company out there. It is the best job I've ever had, and I got a lot of great coworkers and a fantastic boss I love working with. Kudos to our good old our tech systems over there at Guaranteed Rate. I've also worked with a couple other tools like Test Project. You might have seen that, Test Project IO on the web. And I also work with Test Rigger, which is a tool which is low code testing. Most people who are developers like me, we don't like to talk about low code. It's because there's nothing for us to do. There's no code to write. But I also work with Test Rigger, which is really kind of cool because you can automate in plain English. You just say to click the Add to Cart button, and it goes and finds a button called Add to Cart, clicks on it. Well, how much easier could it be? I do have a YouTube channel. I do chit chat on Twitter, as I said. I've been a speaker on Joe Colantonio's Halloween episodes of Test Talk and Test Guild. And I've also been a conference speaker over at Micro Focus, Selenium Conference, and Ministry of Testing. And I hope, everybody's pretty cool with all that. Fantastic people all across the United States. While I'm sitting here chit-chatting, let me ask you guys, while we still got a minute or so, where are you everybody located at? I'm here in the United States. I'm in Illinois, in the Midwest, just a little bit west of Chicago. It's not a city area. It's very much a suburban area. And while I'm waiting to see if we're testing to see how those messages come through, and don't be shy, ask questions. That's a really big thing I want to do. So what else we got? I think I mentioned all the stuff that I wanted to tell you about myself. Oh, I've worked on X-ray machines. I've worked at Redbox. I've done technical screens for for Amazon actually. So like I said, I love what I do, and my first automation tool, if you want to know, goes back 20 years. It is Windrunner from Mercury Interactive. It was C++. I've worked in Java, JavaScript, dabbled in Python a little bit, and a couple other languages. So I just enjoy everything that I do with test automation. And I collect a lot of books. Haha! So that's my timer that's going off here. That's reminding me I need to bring Marco up on stage. So with that said, I'm going to introduce to you Marco Cruz and 5 things that set customer automation engineers apart from the rest of the pack. And we'll get Marco up there in in the next 2 minutes. So everybody hold off here. We'll get Marco I think online. We're going to have the guys on the back sides get everything ready, and we'll as I said, I love books. By the way, these are all my automation books. I have tons of automation books. JavaScript. Get a book. Get a real book. Write in it, and all that stuff. So with that said, I'm going to ask our guys behind the scenes to go on and bring in Marco. Marco, are you? We're gonna see. We're gonna go live in about a minute. Oh, I see Marco's coming up there. I see his background. Hey, Marco, how you doing?
Hi, very good morning to you.
Oh, good. Thank you. How you doing? And by the way, Marco, where are you coming from today?
I'm in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, wonderful! Great weather. Fantastic.
Yes,
I love Orlando.
Always great.
Cool. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us about those 5 things that set our automation engineers apart, the outstanding ones from everybody else. Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to finally get to virtually meet you, Paul. I've seen some of your work, and it's pretty amazing. I also like your hats. They're kind of cool. Well, thank you, everyone. You're in an echo. Let me know if you are also hearing an echo. Sure. Is it good now? All right. Hopefully it's fixed. I don't hear an echo on my end. All right. So basically, I just want to thank you all guys for inviting me here. Thank you for the people who have joined today. And let's go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So hopefully you're able to see my screen. All right. Awesome. All right. So I would like to start with a little demo here. in my hands here, I have a DSLR camera, right? And I want to propose something to you guys. Let's say that I asked you to, we're only QA, right? Let's say that I asked you to QA this camera. My question is, how would you go about it, right? There are a lot of different things on this camera. For one, there are 20 buttons on it. Most of these buttons have different features, different things that they can do. And there's a whole lot of things internally, right, in the software. It would be a bit of a challenge for someone who's new to photography, for instance, to learn how to use something like this, or even to begin how to test it. So what I'm going to do is, ask you another question. What if I gave you a manual, right, that went along with it, and I asked you to go ahead and test it using this manual? It would be a lot easier for you to do it then, because you would have step-by-step instructions on how to go about testing the camera, right? You would see every feature, and you would know what to expect when you do certain things on the camera. So my goal with this talk here is, basically the promise that I want to give you guys is to give you step-by-step instructions on what to do on setting yourself apart from the rest. Ultimately, we are all competing for, X number of jobs out there, and the better your chances are going to be better when you set yourself apart from the competition. Right? So this is my intention here with this talk. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I one of the things that I like to ask is, like, why do some people get lucky? It seems like some people tend to have, fortune on their side. They're always in the right place, the right time. They're easy for them to get paid raises and promotions, and it may make you question, like, why? What is it about this person that appears that they're always lucky and they're always able to get whatever they set their mind to. So, but another thing that I want to ask is, like, what if it's more than just pure chance? That's what we want to explore in this talk here. So let me go to the next slide here. Here's Seneca's definition of luck. And the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines luck as a force that brings good fortune or adversity. Because we could have good luck, we can also have bad luck. In this case, we're talking about the good luck type of thing. Most of you would agree with me that in order to win the lottery, you still have to buy a lottery ticket, right? So it's not something that is automatically going to fall in your hands, like, here's $1 million you just won, right? You have to take some action, even if it's that small leap of faith of buying that lottery ticket, right? The only exception that I can think of, if it's somebody, maybe a friend of yours, gifted you a lottery ticket, and in that case, you didn't have to buy it. But in most cases, you have to do something. You have to take a step in the right direction to be there for that opportunity, right? So another thing that I want to point out is that a person who is not wanting to learn how to play chess, they're not going to look up the instructions on how to play chess, right? You have to have a mindset. You have to have a willingness to pursue a certain goal, a certain dream, a certain objective, right? So that is what I'm trying to, with all the examples that you're going to see here, is you're going to see the same thing playing out in every example. It's like someone has to make a decision, right, to be successful, to achieve whatever they want to achieve in life. It reminds me of a story that I read about a violinist. There was a violinist playing at an event, and there were two ladies spectators, and one of the ladies said to the other, "Wow, this person is really really talented. They're really good at what they do." And she was so impressed by the performance of the violinist that after the performance, she went up to the person and told them, "Wow, I wish I could be as good as you are," right? And the response from the violinist was a little surprising for the lady, because they said, "No, you don't. You don't wish you were as good as I am. The result, what you're seeing today, is the result of hundreds of hours of practice. I've had to say no to many pleasures in life, to dedicate my life to play the violin as good as I did today." So that may give you something to think about. right? Next time you see someone perform at a high level, like a superstar in the NBA and football, whatever you name it, they've spent their life, they've taken their career seriously, and they've decided that they want to be among the best in whatever they do, right? So this is no exception with this violinist. So people who reach success in life do so because they have decided to be successful, right? People who earn more money in their careers do so because they have decided they wanted to earn more. People who get to a certain level, a certain target in the organization, they do so because they have decided they wanted to get to that level, right? It was their plan from the very beginning whenever they joined the company, or started their careers. That was their plan, right? To get to a certain level. There is a quote that I like, and it comes from one of my favorite speakers. His name is Les Brown. You may have heard of him. He says that want shows up in conversation, and expectation shows up in behavior, right? So you can say things like, I want to have a better career, I want to earn more money, but that will show up in your conversation. When you say, I expect to have this amount of money coming in, I expect to earn this achievement, that is different, because when you say, I expect this, you're going to take certain steps to achieve that, to get to that point, right? So it's a big difference in the wanting something and expecting something, and that is the distinction that I want to drive home here. Is you're going to see that you're going to have to set up certain expectations in your life if you want to get to a certain point. So how can you prepare for an opportunity, right? So we've talked about preparing, so let's take a look at that. And this brings me to the first item in the list, which is communication, right? As testers, we focus on testing the quality of software, right? We're given an application and say, hey, go ahead and break this application. Tell me what bugs are in this application. But very few times do we focus about the communication, right? Our communication skills, the quality of our communication, which is also very, very important. So you may ask, why is communication important, right? So on the left here, you're seeing this picture of two persons, right? You have a person on the left and the person on the right. They're both able to get from point A to point B. However, you will notice that the person on the left, they kind of wander around. They're not quite sure how to get from point A to point B. And on the other hand, the other person is able to get from point A to point B in what appears to be a straight line, right? So that is an example of good communication. You're able to present your ideas and showcase, what you have, what you're capable of through your communication skills. And some of the benefits that you're going to see, like who benefits from good communication, it starts with you. It's easier for you to be understood by other people. So that is one of the advantages that you're going to have by building your good communication skills. And then it trickles down to your team, because your team having a good communication within the team is going to make them more effective as well as efficient, right? And lastly, the company, right? The organization that you work for, they're also going to benefit from you having good communication skills. And one thing that I would like to mention is that when you're in the job market, looking for a job, you go on LinkedIn or Indeed.com or whatever, you look up the job descriptions. You'll notice that 99% of those job descriptions will have good communication skills as one of the requirements for the job. What do you think they want you to have good communication skills? They don't put that there just for pure chance, just to fill up some blank space. It's there's a reason why they put that in there. Is because the companies that want to hire you, they value communication. They value good communication, right? Because it makes the company more robust and more efficient, right? There was a study that was done in 2011. This was done by a well-known person called David Grossman. He showed that 400 out of 400 companies, each having 100,000 employees, they cited an average loss per company of $62.4 million, that's US dollars, per year because of inadequate communication between employees, or to and between employees. That is significant amount, $62.4 million per company, right? So when you have a company that doesn't have good communications within the teams, it just hurts the company. It hurts the bottom line. It hurts the profits for the company and how effective they can be in the market. So another thing that we have now is with remote work, it's another challenge that we have. We have employees working remotely, myself included. That's presents a challenge because you're no longer talking to another human being face to face. We lose that physical aspect of communication, right? So, and we know that not all communication is verbal, right? A lot of communication, a significant portion, is nonverbal, right? How you say things, how your body language, your posture, your tone of voice, all of those things matter, right? And we're communicating through email or some Teams or Zoom. It loses a lot of that. So you have to build your good communication in order to be more effective in those areas. So let's look at a formula for communication. And this formula comes from the late MIT professor Patrick Winston. He defines the quality of communications by this formula, which is the function of K times P times T, in which K represents knowledge, P represents practice, and T represents talent. Right? And I would like you to pay attention to the size of these letters because it's significant. In the case of K, you'll notice that K is much larger than the letter T. And that is because talent doesn't play a big role when it comes to the quality of your communication. It's mostly what you know, your knowledge, and also the practice, what you do with that knowledge that you have, that will have the biggest impact in the way you communicate. So if you have a pen and paper, write down this formula. I encourage you to look into it and think about it, and tell me what you think about it later. There's another person, Whitney Young Jr., who said, "It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared." And this is where the P comes into play, right? You practice. That's the preparedness part of it, right? We practice and practice and practice what we know. We're always acquiring more knowledge. That's the K, and the practice part is very important as well, because it doesn't matter how much knowledge you acquire from reading books, from reading blogs or whatever. You have to put that into practice as well at some point in order to retain that knowledge, right? So we see that knowledge is very important. So what type of knowledge should you have? So let's go to the next slide. And this is item number 2 on the list, which is product knowledge. I would like to just let you know that when you're testing software, you have to get to know the product that you're testing. And this may seem, like obvious, but it's very important, for you to know the product that you're testing, because the better you know it, the better you're going to become at testing it, right? In this example, we have a cockpit, right? Pilots have to become very well acquainted with every instrument, right, in the cockpit. In case of an emergency, what does the pilot need to do? They need to take certain action to, possibly preserve the life of the people on board the plane. In case there's any type of emergency, they have to know what to do when they're taking off, when they're landing. They have to know what every instrument on the cockpit does. And they have to be intimately familiar with it in case something were to happen. They can take action. And I think that in the same way, we as testers, we have to become familiar and be responsible for knowing the application quite well, so that we can produce basically a better product, give a better product to the end user, because ultimately that's the goal of our jobs, right? Is to give the best experience, the best product that we can to the end user. In the example of the airplane, not doing so and not getting familiar with the instruments, it can lead to catastrophic results. And this is also specifically true with people who are testing software that goes into, for example, medical equipment, right? That's life or death in many cases, right? Devices that are administering medicine to patients, you have to be very good at what you do, to make sure that you're not giving them a bigger dose than they're supposed to be getting, right? Also for public safety equipment, traffic lights comes to mind. They're controlled by computers, by software. So that's important, because if you don't do what you're doing, you can have people, having accidents, and you don't want that, right? And the last thing that I would like to note about product knowledge, it's basically your tech stack. When you have an application, we all know that it's got some type of tech stack, right? You will have a front end and you have a back end, and the back end will have different components, right? I would encourage you to get familiar with the tech stack. Know what, for example, what programming language is being used in the back end to build the application, what type of databases, what type of servers. All of those things are very important as you build your repertoire, of testing knowledge. I think that the more you know about how the application is built, the better you will become at finding those edge case bugs, those corners and areas that are difficult to find and difficult to sometimes reproduce, right? It just gives you more insight as to what is going on, right? So what other knowledge should you acquire? Let's go to the next slide. And this brings us to point number 3 in the list, which is domain knowledge. And in this case, I'm not referring to the technical aspect of domain knowledge. It's more industry domain. For example, insurance or medical, financial services, that type of knowledge. And let's say, for example, that you're testing some application in the medical field, and it requires that you abide by certain laws. So here in the United States, we have a law called HIPAA law, which protects your personal information, patient information, just personal information in general. As a tester, it would benefit you greatly to know what that law has. You don't have to become an expert at knowing every detail in the law, but just to having a general picture, general idea, some insight into that law will give you a better chance of testing the application well. Because as testers, we have a big responsibility to make sure that we are making sure that whatever application we're testing, it's following the rules, following the law. So that is just an example, one of the many examples that I can give you when it comes to domain knowledge. So getting to know what domain your application falls under, it's very important. In my career, for example, I work in insurance. So the more I tested the application, the more I became familiar with the insurance industry, and I had to learn. The beginning was a big learning curve because I had never worked for insurance companies. So it was a big learning curve, but the more I learned, it's made me a better tester in the end. So another example that I can give, in one of my previous employers, we had an opportunity where we could get certified. We could get us insurance certification that would make us basically give us a better knowledge of the product, right? And this was offered to the QA department, and I was kind of surprised to see that only 10% of the people that could take advantage of it took advantage of it, right? So because it was voluntary, they didn't think that it was something that was going to hurt their career or hurt them, in any way. So they only, like I said, only 10% decided to take action and take that certification. Most of them, they thought, well, why do I need to do this? It's not really going to benefit me. I need to take a test and all of that. I don't have time for that. So that's another example. That's how you set yourself apart from the rest. People who want to go the extra mile, they look at those opportunities and they take advantage of those opportunities. And this example here takes me to the next point. So, and this is item number 4 on the list, which is continuous improvement. I'll give you guys a few moments to read this quote by Aaron Nightingale. And so I'm sure you will agree with what's being stated here. Some of this it could be a harsh reality, but it's really true. Aaron Nightingale was a genius when it came to this type of thing, just personal development in general. So I found a definition for personal continuous improvement. It says that it's a never-ending strive for perfection in everything that you do. So when we are releasing applications to the world, right? What do we do that? How do we do that? We do it in sprint cycles, generally speaking, right? Well, in those sprint cycles, will have a better version of the application. Every time we release something, we're releasing performance enhancements, we're removing bugs, we are providing more speedy application, just giving the user a better experience of the product, right? And I think that the same should be applied to you, to the person. I think that as testers, we need to evaluate ourselves. How can I get at least 1% better every single day? What can I do? Excuse me. What can I do to get 1% better than I was yesterday, for example, right? There's a lot of things that you can do, and I have here some examples. Some suggestions that I can tell you is, for example, learn some HTML, learn some CSS. And I'm aware that many of you may already be familiar with this, but some people are not, and they may think that as testers that doesn't apply to them. They don't need to learn that stuff, especially if you're not doing automation, for instance. You may not be needing those skills, but it's something that is going to get you that 1% better, right? Learning how to build a website, something as simple as just a hello world website. Learn how to build a database, learn how to query a database, how to build database queries. Those things are very, very helpful in your career. API testing is another thing that is big. If you can get those skills on API testing, is great. Load and performance testing, knowing how to load and stress test a website is very important. It's valuable skills to have. We also have security testing. Security testing is also very big these days with all the issues that are going, cyber wars and all the nefarious actors that are attacking companies left and right. It's very important that we have a good understanding of security testing so that we have a good application that will withstand most, if not all of those attacks. So things. These things may not be required in your job, like I said, but will set you apart from the rest of the people that are maybe in your career, competing against. Going back to the example that I gave you before in my last employer, we had that instance where people were given the chance to get certified, but they chose not to because they didn't think that it was necessary. But that is what is going to make you excel. That is going to set you apart from the rest and open the doors in the future. Open doors for bigger opportunities in the future for you. So I would like to just end this part with saying that this practice will not only make you a more well-rounded tester, but it will also more importantly will make you a greater asset to your organization. People who have this type of knowledge, they are become more valuable in your company. Like this quote here is saying, the company is going to look at how difficult is it going to be for them to be to replace you in case you were to leave the company or whatever reason. For sure they're not going to be thinking about getting rid of you. So you're going to have job security there, and you're going to be more valuable. They're going to value you greatly, I'm sure. So how about some extra credit? Let's take a look at that. And things that I can think in that case is, for example, the OSI model, and the TCP/IP model. Looking at those, learning a little bit about what that means, why one may be better than the others or has better adoption than the other. Those are examples that I can give you. You can also look at TCP versus UDP. What are the differences in those? How does it affect the data being transmitted over the internet? And just the internet in general. What happens when I go to the internet and I type in www.somewebsite.com? What happens in the background? What takes place? How does the web browser know where to go to get the information that I'm looking for? Just having a general understanding of how that works, it will profoundly impact your skills. So some of the benefits that you will see, it will make you a better tester. It will improve intuition. As you're testing the application, you will come across certain issues that are difficult to debug. But having this extra knowledge in your repertoire is going to give you that edge, above the rest of the people. It will also give you better debugging abilities, make it easier to communicate with developers. This is another thing that is really important for us as testers. Sometimes we're seeing like people who are less technical, but when you build up these skills, you're going to be able to be right there with the developers and be able to communicate with them within in the same language, and be able to tell them, hey, this is what I think, this is what I noticed that is wrong, and this is what I suspect could be happening. So you're gonna have more respect from them if you take this approach. And we have landed on item number 5 on the list, and this is the last item, which is giving more than is expected of you. In every job, in every field, you're going to have 3 groups of people. The first group is the people who wait for things to happen. Then you have another group who are the people who make things happen, and lastly, you have another group who doesn't know what happened. Right? You want to be in the group that basically make things happen. That's my encouragement to you here. For example, let's say that you want a promotion, right? But you won't do anything about it to deserve that promotion, right? You have to decide, like we said before. You have to expect. I expect to get this promotion. So what steps are you going to take that that are going to lead you to that position that you want? So yeah, so don't expect a promotion or a raise if you're just doing the least that is expected of you. You know. Employers may ask, what is it that you're doing now that deserves a promotion? You may be asked this question. If you're just doing the very least that is expected of you, you shouldn't be expecting to get a promotion, because that's what the employer is paying you for. If you talk, if you want to get to the next level, you have to do more. The employer has to see something more in you that deserves a promotion. Right? There was something that I saw that caught my attention one time. I was scrolling through LinkedIn updates, and there was like a video of someone showing that I will do more when you pay me more. They were receiving a few coins and they were doing a little bit of work. They were receiving more coins. They were doing more work. But that is the wrong approach to take. That's I would not encourage you to take that approach. It might seem counterintuitive, but you will see that when you take the mentality of, well, they're not paying me enough, so I'm not going to do more, that's not going to lead you anywhere in your career. You have to be willing to go the extra mile. You have to do more before you can receive more. First you have to give, and then you receive. It's like planting a tree, right? You plant the tree in the soil, then you water it, and eventually you will see something come out of it. Right? That's the same approach that you have to take when you're working for an employer. If you want to advance in within that organization, you have to be willing to do more than is expected of you, and you're going to be rewarded. That's it's just a fundamental law. You give more, you're going to get more in return. And something else that I've noticed, it's when times are tough, some companies may have to reduce the number of employees. They have to lay some people off. They may have to cut down on bonuses, for example. I've worked for companies where there's been years they only give bonuses to people who have been outstanding throughout the year. They have gotten good evaluations, for example. And the people who don't get the raises, or they don't get the bonuses, that they might get upset. How come I didn't get a raise or a bonus? But they have no one else to blame but themselves. Because you didn't take initiative, you didn't do more than was expected of you. Then you shouldn't expect more. So I've witnessed that firsthand, and that's why I'm telling you that that is very true. So here are the instructions for success, right? Giving you guys, step-by-step instructions, like I said in the very beginning. So I would like to challenge you to put this into action, and see for yourself, that if you put this into action, it's going to impact your career. It's going to help you get to the next level. And like I said, you may not see immediate results. You may not see this happening right away, but it's something that builds on. The more you do every single day, the more it's going to build over time. And eventually you're going to come back and someday hopefully tell me, hey, Marco, you were right. So I hope you got something out of this. It's in at this time, I'll complete my presentation. I'll take any questions you guys may have for me.
Marco, thank you very much on that. And I'm taking a look at some of these questions we got out here. Um, let's see here, and we can also chit chat about some of the topics. Exactly what you meant, what you said there, rings really true with me for the last 20 years that I've been doing with this with test automation. Um, so let's see. As I said, there it's you can throw in questions over on the right hand side. Let's see. I gotta give a little shout out to Baz Destrika. I know Baz; he's been around here for quite a while, so it's pretty cool. Anna, hey, hi from Ukraine. Hope everything is good and safe with you out there. Thank you so much for joining. This is fantastic, and I believe we took care of the echo with Marco.
Yeah, that was great.
So
Thank you.
yeah, it was me. I did not check one little checkbox, so I think I've
Yeah,
taken
it
that.
happens.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's great to
So
see all this activity. A lot of people joining. That's always great.
yeah, yeah. So I'll tell you, when you were speaking about the product knowledge out there, I mean, you talked a bit about knowing more about the areas that the actual areas that you test in. And for example, I actually started out in in the medical field and testing X-ray machines, and they actually sent us to hospitals to make it very clear, what is the importance of our QA testing when we find a defect that it's actually in that case a matter of life and death that that could
Hmm.
be um, uh, that could be a problem, that makes our QA job is so much more so very important. That really it impressed a lot on me that had to go out there and say, oh wow, there's actually people on a table here that I'm actually helping make sure that they get the treatment and taken care of very very quickly. Let me take a look and see. Let's see. I'm checking to see if there's
Yeah, I
a
think I saw someone saying
question.
that they weren't sure if there was something that was applicable for QA, and I would like to say that this is something that can be applied to basically any industry. Anywhere you go, it's uh, it's going to be applicable.
Yeah.
And I think I noticed somebody else was saying that this could lead to companies taking advantage of you. And you may have companies that will take advantage of this. They may have you working extra hours. They may have you doing more things that is expected of you. But in that case, you have to look at the culture. If this something that is happening throughout the company with every employee. In that case, you don't want to be in that company, right? You want to be in the type of company that is going to value the work that you do. So you could be right in this case. Some companies will take advantage of you, but it's your responsibility to know that you're not being taken advantage of. So that when a promotion comes in, I worked in companies where a person may leave and there becomes an opportunity for promotion. Are those promotions being made available to you if you're doing the extra work? Giving you that opportunity to move up. That's how you're going to be able to gauge what type of company, what type of employee you're working for.
Yeah. I also see that. Let's see. I think it's light taxi. Light taxel is talking about suggesting on working on yourself. I'm always working on learning more. I will tell you one interesting thing was about 2 years ago. I had no knowledge about security testing, and I just happened to pick up a gig where I was ended up working for a couple of weeks for a company out of Boston, and they were doing security testing. And one of the questions that they answered, which was really cool for them, was that they have all these different types of tools out there, right? You've got like Zap and Nikto. I'm sure these should ring a bell if anyone is working in security testing, intrusion testing. And there's paid tools and there's open source tools, and how well do they work. And this one company out in Boston basically had licenses for them all, and you'd hire them all and they would just say, we'll take all these tools and we'll go attack your public site, and then we'll give you a big long list. I shouldn't say attack. They implemented this to see where the security holes were in there, and then gave you a big long list and said, okay, here are 3 vulnerabilities, and here are the tools that detected these two, and this one found all 3. a really great insight on, knowing whether the cost of the tool that you're using is actually giving you the cost for the return on investment of what you're working with there. Um, so, and I people ask me, am I a tester of intrusion testing or anything like security testing? I'm like, no, I did it for 2 weeks, but I learned a lot. It was a
Yeah,
fantastic opportunity.
yeah,
Marco, do
yeah.
you
It
do do
seems.
you do security? I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were asking a question.
No, I was gonna say it's once we stop going to school, we get our degree, we think that that's the end of the road. We stop learning, but it's so not true. I mean, you
No.
have so much to learn. New technologies are advancing at a speed of light. It seems like so it's important to just keep revamping your skills and getting better and better at it. And to answer your question, Paul, no, I'm not an expert when it comes to security or anything like that, but I was just giving some examples. I like to dabble around, learning things here and there, like you said, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, just to have a good knowledge, a breadth of knowledge of when it comes to those type of things.
Yep. I'm just getting into the API market my area myself. I've had it on my list for about 6 years, saying I really need to know this, but I've never had a client that said, "Oh yeah, here's some endpoints. Go check them out, test them."
Right.
Uh, but it's always good, there's courses out there. There's Udemy courses. There's YouTube out there. And one of the things I tell people, there's like questions that get asked on Quora all the time. It's like, how do I become an automation engineer? How do I become a developer? And I say, give yourself a project. Just you don't have to have a client if you want to do this. And that's basically what I did when I started 20 years ago. I actually found a game site, and I had my little Windrunner tool up here, and I decided to try and automate the game site. The funny thing is that it was a JavaScript site. It was running all internally in Java. And today, if you try to do it, it'd be absolutely impossible because everyone says, "Oh, just use a CSS or an XPath." There was nothing there. The only element it gave me was there's a window. that's and that was it. But I didn't know at the time that would make it near impossible to automate. So there was really nothing to stop
Right.
me from going and I'll just go click on this button and I'm going to see if I can figure out what card I'm seeing and what information is being displayed. And I had a lot of good success with it because I really didn't have anybody telling me you can't do that. So experimentation, take some time, set aside a little bit of time on your weekends to learn how different tools, learn different languages. Um, Marco, can I ask you what languages do you generally program in with when you're working?
The main language that I use is Java. I've worked in Python projects in the past, some JavaScript, but mainly Java.
Okay, yeah, very similar to me. I've gone from JavaScript to yeah, well, yeah, that's the path. Actually, VB script. I'm the only guy who brags about saying I
Okay.
did automation engineer for 14 years working in BASIC, that language I learned back in the 80s. It worked out pretty well for me. Having worked for a mortgage company right now, it helped me pay my mortgage for 14 years. Um,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I
do
had
you
a
do?
professor
Go ahead.
in school that had us write a basic program, so that was interesting to get to know how that works.
Yeah, and the flexibility. By the way, this tool up here, the first one I worked with, it was C plus plus. We actually had a joke. We called it C minus minus because it didn't have any pointers. But aside from
Okay.
that, it worked really well. Um, and yeah, it's. Do you do you think that there's any advantage or disadvantage to ask? Let's see. Make sure I'm good here. To having the language that the application is written in the same as the app as the automation framework that you're working with.
Yeah, that's a question that I get a lot, and it's really gonna be. I've read some posts that say that it's better to have this write your automation in the same language that the application is written on, and the benefit to that is that you have access to the development team that can help you in case you get stuck in some areas. But if you have a good a superstar solid team of estats, there is no reason why you shouldn't pick a different language. So that's my point of view on that one. In where I'm at right now, I'm writing Java, but the application is using PHP. So it's really going to depend on you and how confident you feel that you're going to be able to succeed in your role.
Excellent, excellent. I'm seeing Jan here saying she has a piece of automation specific advice to share. Make your test results readable for less technical folks. It helps the whole team see the value in your testing. That is, Jan, that is fantastic advice. I do that with my own team. And I actually have a rule that we put in there when we're doing our code reviews is that every assertion we have has to have a variable in it.
Hmm.
I never want to see a test that says the test passed, the test failed. I don't. If it failed, I want to know what failed, where did it
Right.
fail, what page was I on, what button was I trying to click, what list was I doing, what
Right.
item in the list didn't appear. Um, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's cool.
Exactly. Yeah, and going back to what we were talking earlier, continuous education, it's now it's easier than ever. Like when I got started, back in 2013, it was somewhat, there was some stuff on YouTube, but now it's like YouTube. You have other companies, that have just free resources everywhere, or even very cheap courses on Udemy or other sites. It's so easy to get access to this information, and I'm a big advocate for people, who are self-taught. Even though I have a college degree, I feel that I could have, gotten into this field without even a college degree because you have so much free information out there right now, and people are just, just they should take advantage of it, and use that to their advantage.
I'm going to tell everybody a little secret about me. I don't really mention that much. My college degree comes from the Savannah College of Art and Design. Um, my best friend was a comic book artist, but another guy was a really top level coder. He was actually writing websites 20 years ago and he paid for his education doing that. And a couple of years ago, he actually went and worked for Pixar and I'm sorry, not Pixar. He worked on the movie Avatar, and if you've seen Avatar in 3D with all the plants flowing back and forth,
Right.
that's all his code.
Wow.
So even with an art degree, we were pretty off the chart because, like I said, we were a feeder school for Pixar. Our classes were top level for an art
Hmm.
school. So um, and even 20 years ago, there really wasn't a course or any certifications that you could get to learn the basics of that. Um,
Right.
Marco, where would you say you should go to get learning more knowledge about the areas of test automation?
Yeah, like I said, there's plenty of resources online. You could, yeah, my, for example, I have a YouTube channel called Automate Now. You can check that out. I've from zero to hero, basically showing you how from a very basics. You can have, multiple channels on YouTube. Not just mine. You have resources. Like the Tools University. Forget the exact name right now, but they have so many courses for free out there that you can go and check out. There's just a lot of stuff that you can search for, and if you're willing to look for you, I'm sure you'll find it.
Okay. I'm looking through our questions over here. I got one from Dmitro Romanov. The points are rather general related to. Do you have a TA specific hint? I think you were referring to that when we were first starting. Do you have a TA test automation specific hints? Well, I think we've been basically talking a lot about that in the last few minutes here. As you mentioned, continuous improvement is something is good, and giving more than expected. You made a really good point. Is that you don't want to say I'll do more when I get paid more. It really does work the other way around. And if you love
Hmm.
your job, if you love what you do, I love presenting. I love giving presentations and showing off these tricks and things. It really shows off that you're able to do what you can do. Marco, again, I'm going to say thank you very much for your service.
You're welcome.
I appreciate everything that the people do in the military out there. I'm going to go move on to Simon over here. We'll do a little bit of talk about him. Marco, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much. All right. I've got Simon sitting there in the green room over here. I think he's up there. Let me give you a little bit more detail about what Simon does here. So as I mentioned, he's an expert in Java, JavaScript, Python, Selenium, and Playwright. He's the author of the PyTest Playwright visual package. I'm going to take a guess. It might be a Node package, but I'll have to ask Simon and see if that is. If I'm not, sounds familiar.
It's Python package.
It's Python. It's okay. I'm saying you're right. I'm thinking JavaScript. I'm too focused in on my own day job right now. So cool. Thank you. It's a Python package. You're also a lecturer on Udemy. You've got a presentation out there, Playwright with Python for web automation testing and visual. That is a 6-hour course. And it's I actually had pulled it up on my phone over here just to take a peek at it. Looks really great. And I think you said you're using PyCharm as your IDE. I think that's from JetBrains. Am I wrong on that?
That's right. Yep.
It is. I love JetBrains. I love their IDEs. I love IntelliJ when I'm working with Java. I love WebStorm when I'm working in JavaScript. So I love all that stuff. And you created 10,000 animated NFTs with Python. Is this correct? Did I read that correctly?
That is right. Yep.
All right, cool. All right. I guess I have to go pick up a couple of NFTs myself over here. Well, with that given out there, Simon, welcome aboard. And I'm going to throw it over to you. And let's learn a little bit more about your presentation on automating testing with Playwright and Python.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. First off, thank you for inviting. It's a big honor to be in the same role with such speakers as Paul and Marco. I heard about Paul before, and I wish I knew about Marco earlier as well. I would pick up some tricks that he broadcasts on his YouTube channel. So before we begin, first off, I want to say that wherever you're watching this presentation from, whichever part of the world, I hope you're in a safe place. You have a safe sky over your head, and you're having a splendid day. That's very important. So a little bit about myself. My name is Symon Storozhenko, if you wonder how to pronounce my last name. And I've been working as a QA automation specialist for about 8 years now. And I worked in different domains, telecom, payment industry, insurance. Currently, I work at IsDeal Secured, a company that deals with commercial real estate, anything from warehouses to skyscrapers. The topic of my speech today, let me just share my screen real quick, will be Playwright automation using Python. Okay, I need to allow some permissions here on my computer. Give me a second. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Something tells me I need to restart my Chrome. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can fix it. I hope I can rejoin. Give me a second. I apologize about this. I didn't know this is going to happen. Give me a second, Paul.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
I'll keep everybody entertained here while we deal with some technical issues. That's the interesting thing about these sessions here. We have stuff like that pop up all the time. I will let you know one of the last sessions that I worked on at the very moment that I was about to go live. That's when Windows decided it needed to do all the updates for me. The lucky thing was that the next speaker that I had, he had gotten into like a minor car accident and he was running 15 minutes late. So the whole thing was just being delayed one after another. So it actually kind of turned out okay. So it's an interesting thing we get into these things. Simon is back over here. Let's see. Hopefully we get some. You got your approvals going on that allow things to share.
Thank you, Paul, for backing me up.
Sure, not a problem.
Okay, I hope you can see my screen now.
I'm going to turn off my camera. And I
See if
As far
somebody
as from my side, I only see you.
Let me look.
Please do make sure that the full screen mode.
Full screen mode. Okay.
Yeah, so we don't see the tabs is what I'm being asked on the back side here.
That's what I did. Entire screen. Choose this. Yep, that's what I'm sharing. It's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they're saying we're not seeing. Yeah. They're saying they mean in PowerPoint.
PowerPoint. Okay. The thing is, I need to present my pie chart because I'll be doing some hands-on stuff.
Okay.
Because what could go wrong, right?
That's what our world is all about.
Yeah.
That's our ROI when we find things like that.
I'll try it from Safari.
Okay.
Who knows? Let's try that.
Sounds good.
Because it seems like Chrome is the most reliable, maybe not always. Okay, let me join there.
See how that goes.
Okay.
So I've always been interested in automation with Python. I'm looking forward to this. I have worked in a lot of different languages. And one of the cool things about automation is that once you learn one particular language, as I said, I worked in Visual Basic, VB Script Basic. I was able to take all the ideas and concepts that I learned in Basic for about 15 years and brought that into my Java framework, and then brought that into, from there, brought that into JavaScript, which is works out really really cool. Says you're sharing. Let me check with the everybody on the screen. Can anyone see your the screen? Can we get a confirmation? Hey, I see it. Okay, Simon, you are sharing. We're all good. I'll let you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul, for entertaining.
My pleasure.
Okay, so there is so much feedback I'm getting. Hold on. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, boy.
And we had the screen there for just for a moment.
So what happened? I was getting a lot of feedback. I'm still getting, and I closed my Chrome. It seemed like Chrome was sharing and not Safari. Okay. I've used Restream actually quite successfully with Chrome. I'm not sure why we're having this right now.
Are you talking about the visual feedback? You were getting like the window and a window and a window and a window. Is that what you're talking about?
No, the audio feedback I'm talking about.
Okay. There is also, if you go under settings, there is two options. You can go to audio, and there's echo cancellation and noise suppression that maybe turned off. That's what I was kind of getting. I also went to headsets that I was having an echo issue with my previous guest. But I can see you have the earbuds on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you just hit F5, you had PowerPoint up there. So if you bring up PowerPoint, hit F5, it should go to a full screen, give you an option, and then you should be good to go. There you go. And yeah, I can see that. And I would say maybe minimize the browser. And okay, he's going to try and come back in here.
Great.
So Simon's back. So there was a quick question. Has anyone found value in creating an online portfolio for their testing? A lot of testing I do can't be publicly shared. Quick answer, I actually have a whole bunch of stuff on my YouTube channel. Absolutely, Jen. Do that. Just, do the things that you've learned in test automation and do it with whatever public websites out there. Okay, Simon, I think we're ready to go. I'll let you run there.
Okay, yeah, but apologize for all of this. Hey, anyway, we started 4 minutes earlier than my scheduled speech, so it's a same day service, right? Okay, so Playwright automation with Python. So you probably heard this Playwright tool, what is it about, maybe in the context, how it's compared to Selenium, how it's compared against Cypress, what's the benefits, what the pros and cons compared to the other two tools. We're going to discuss all of that. First off, let's start with a little bit of history. So there was an internal need inside Google to create their own tool for headless browser automation for their testing purposes, and they created this tool called Puppeteer. Then team that created Puppeteer, or the part of the team, they went to Microsoft and they renamed the tool as Playwright. And this is what we know it as it is today. What is Playwright? What are the main features? First and foremost, just like Cypress and Selenium, and of course other tools that are open source, this tool is free. That means you don't have to pay for it. You just download packages and run your testing. The execution of tests is supported on multiple operation systems like Linux, Windows, and macOS. A very peculiar, interesting support for browsers from Playwright is that it uses the engines that support Chrome, Safari, and Firefox. And they are called Chromium WebKit and Firefox Nightly, respectively. So what it means is that Playwright has these browsers that are released ahead of the production browsers that allows you potentially see any issues happening. Let's say Chrome team introduce some new feature and it's going to potentially break your website or your company's website. That means you have upper hand in seeing this issue before your users see that issue. I think this is very, very important. Just like Selenium, Playwright tries to create many language bindings, and some of these are Node.js, JavaScript, Python, C#, and Java. It's still a little behind Selenium. I think there are like 7 language bindings. So in addition to these, there is like Perl, PHP, and something else. I don't remember. You can test mobile web emulation on the browsers. So it's very important. It's not the mobile apps, it's the web that you use on your cell phones. Then Playwright comes prepackaged with the auto-wait functionality. That means if you have a button that loads for more than like 2 seconds, you don't have to create what you would do in Selenium, like implicit, explicit wait. It comes already with batteries, so to speak. The timeout is 5 seconds by default, but you can increase the timeout in line to whichever milliseconds you want. Also, you can test multiple tabs, you can test multiple users. Playwright uses this concept of context, so you would have one context for one user with all the session data, with all the cookies, and then you would have another storage data for another user, and you would run potentially those tests parallel without them intermingling and affecting each other. I think this is a pretty cool feature. Okay, so what is going to be in this presentation? Of course, overall a discussion of the tool, then running tests with PyTest. We're going to dive into PyTest right away. PyTest is the test framework for Python. I think it's the best framework, given my very subjective, biased opinion. It's best of all the languages. I worked with Jest, I worked with JUnit and TestNG. These are the test frameworks for JavaScript and Java, and they have this concept called before all, before each, after all, after each. So PyTest has what you call fixture that has all these, the power of all these before all, before, after all methods combined in just one function. I think this is really cool. It's very laconic and really straightforward. Then we're going to go to reporting, parallel execution, and running some of the CLI commands in the terminal. And I'm going to ask a question. Have you seen a cake with 2 cherries? Probably not, or a cupcake. So because this is what we're going to have today. So we're going to have 2 extra topics that I particularly like. One is visual testing, and another one is automating Chrome extensions. I'll be using MetaMask and OpenSea example. So if you are into NFTs, blockchain, or artsy by nature, you will find it useful, I think. Okay. Now let me switch my sharing to PyCharm. Okay, the only thing I need to find it. Okay, let me minimize that. And I have PyCharm here. Okay, great. All right, so where do we start? Since this is open source package, we're going to install it using pip. We're going to go to terminal and type pip install playwright. I'm going to have a longer installation just because I have it installed already. After that, you would need to install all the browsers, and for this you use command playwright install. Okay. And let's install PyTest right away. So in PyCharm, you can either install it from terminals or go to Preferences, Projects, Python Interpreter, and then hit this plus icon, and you can just type PyTest, highlight it, and install it from here. Okay, so do it for PyTest and then PyTest playwright. We're going to come back for other packages later. Okay, that's it. I have one test file prepared already. So the thing is, when you run PyTest, all your test files should start with test. I usually put it as test underscore. Then all the test methods also start with test underscore. Okay, I have these functions here, and that means that Python is going to recognize and pick up those tests. My bad, I need to run PyTest command. All right, as you can see, it picked 11 items, and some of them are going to run in headed mode, but we're going to look at it a little later. So let's discuss what is happening here. Or, you know what? Better so. Let's look at how we can generate code on the fly. This is the best, the fastest, and sure way to get familiarized with Playwright tool. In your terminal, type Playwright, CodeGen, and let's type google.com. Oops, that's not where I wanted to go. It's interesting. Okay, let's go to Google. All the interesting stuff happening today. All right. Anyway, we can review this website. I mean, it's okay. So here we have Playwright Inspector, and it's going to generate tests for the language of your choice. It has Python, it has JavaScript, and recently, actually probably a week ago, Playwright team introduced PyTest test generation. We're just going to go right here. Okay, we're going to make some clicks. Maybe we can go somewhere else, just like that. That would be enough. Let's look at what is happening here. I don't think it's recording any clicks. Okay. All right. So what Playwright did, it used the goto method to go to the URL of your choosing. Then it's going to use this page locator strategy to find your selectors on the page. In this particular case, what we did is we looked for the test that has this verbiage, Google wins elections prediction, and we click on this. Okay, so this brings us to our next topic, which is locators. And always when you looking at your new tool, check documentation, because it has some useful information that you can really glean knowledge from. So let's go to our locators, and there will be some explanation why locators are important, because it has auto waiting and auto retry ability. So if you click on the button and it's not reacting, it's going to continue clicking for default of 5 seconds, which the timeout that you can increase eventually. Okay. Then inside the locator, we're using the selection strategy, which you could find more in the selectors page. The one that we just looked at called text selector, but there are also many other selectors like CSS. We have some data test ID tags, a wide range of ways to find your elements on the page. I think this is really cool.
Hey, Simon, I hate to interrupt you, but I think you might be looking at a page. We don't see anything really changing up on your screen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because it can only transmit one window at a time. Okay, I apologize for that. I thought I was sharing the entire screen. Let me quickly switch that and show you the web page, which is right here. I just need to remember, continue switching the windows that I'm sharing. Okay, so the previous one I was talking about is locators. It's right here, right? And this is the playwright.dev website that I have. I'm going to post it in the comments in the links so that you can look at this. And the locators inside using selection strategy that you can find more in the selectors menu of the Playwright for Python. Okay, the one we used the text selector, but there are many others like CSS, data test ID, and so on. It's pretty robust in that regard. I like it. Okay, let me switch back to PyCharm. All right. Okay, I think we're done here. I'm going to cancel out by hitting Control-C. Okay, I hope you see. Let me see what I'm sharing there. Yes, I'm sharing PyCharm. Okay, good. All right, so we run a couple tests, but what if I want to run only one test? This is where the CLI commands come in handy. So you can just type -K, and after that, you can either specify the file name, the file pattern, the test name, anything you'd like is going to pick up. So I'm going to type test underscore PyTest intro, PyTest underscore intro.py. Okay, and it's going to pick up only 2 tests since I have only 2 tests in this file. Okay, we run one, and we're going to run second. Probably it's going to fail. No, it did not. Okay, so by default, Playwright runs the test in the headless mode. To change that, you can add another argument into your CLI called headed. And that will bring up your browser, which is Chromium by default. Talking about browsers, we can change the browsers that you want to use. If you want to use Safari, type -- browser and type WebKit. If you want to use several browsers at the same time, you have to do this thing for each of the browsers. Browser, let's say Firefox. Okay. Let's type here something. Browser. Okay, great. It's 4 tests now because it's 2 browsers by 2 tests. This blue icon is actually Firefox Nightly, one version ahead of the production, which is really, really neat. Okay. Great. We discussed that. Let me look at my notes. If you want to present your automation to your team and you feel like your tests are running just way too fast, there is a way to slow it down. Type -- slow more, and then in the milliseconds, specify how much you want it to wait. So I'm going to use the 1/5 of a second, 200 milliseconds. You can use 1000, which is 1 second. It's up to you. Sometimes I even use it, I'll be honest with you, when I need to test something and the network is slow, or it just the framework itself is so fast that I need to slow it down sometimes. Like, whoa, Playwright, slow down, right? So that's what I need to do. And I wonder, Paul, because I run tests in headed mode, did you see any browsers come up that you could watch? Or did you just see the PyCharm window? Because that'd be a shame, because I'm showing you all the browsers, and I'm not sure if you can see that. Okay, let me run it, and I'll watch myself on YouTube. Nope, you don't see that. I really apologize. I don't know why we are not able to share the entire screen, because this is actually where the stuff was happening. That's okay. I think we'll we'll find it. We'll make it work. All right. Let's move on to fixtures. So fixture, as I told you already, is a very powerful tool that PyTest has up its sleeve, right? Or up my collar in my case. Let me open this file called conf_test. So when you use PyTest framework, you always put your fixtures in the conf_test.py file. That way you don't have to import them in your test files. It's going to be recognized by default. If you decide to use a different name, then it's a different story. You have to import it in your test files, unfortunately. I just use default standard process here, which, I don't have to worry about importing this module, all that stuff. So let's look at that. We're going to denote PyTest fixture with @pytest.fixture. And depending on the scope, this is going to be your before all or before each method. So if we see scope of session, that means the session of your complete test run. right? That means it's before all. We want to make sure that Symon logs in to this website before all the tests, keep this storage active, and then run all the tests using this context without the need to log in to my website every time I run a new test, right? Which saves us a lot of time. Okay, so these are all the steps for me to log into my website. I have one website for practicing, and after it's done, we're going to yield the context. So yield is very important here because we can return something, run the program, and don't finish the execution of this function. We can still run something after this and perform our tear down method, which would be after all or after each, right? PyTest fixtures allow you to use some other fixtures. It's some kind of inheritance, so to speak. If you look at this, we have context creation fixture, and the next fixture that I'm going to use will not have a scope of session. If I don't pass anything here, it's going to have a scope of a single test. Okay, for this fixture, I'm going to use the fixture that's going to yield a context. I'm going to create a page based on that context, because the context is already having my logged in information. Go to website, yield the page, which is kind of like dispensing the page, and run all the tests. And after test is done, I'm going to close that page, because if I don't close, I'll have thousands of tabs open in my browser. Okay. One of the examples of how to use it, let me open this file. So in the PyTest test, you pass in this argument, which is login setup. This is the name of the fixture that we use. And we're going to create a page, assign it to the value of this context of this fixture, because it returns us a page, right? And I'm going to use that page to perform operations on my site. I'm going to run it, and hopefully it will pass. Let's do that. What I need to do is change the K pattern for the test name, just like that. All right, test passed. I have another example where I can run tests with two separate users. I have login setup user 2. This is something we didn't look at. I have other fixtures that use different email. So here I have Symon, and in the first case, I have Symon.Storozhenko, two different users. And based on those contexts, I create extra fixtures, which is login setup user 2. So I have two files, one that uses this fixture and one that uses the fixture for the second user. Okay. I am going to change, let me remove all that stuff we don't need. I'm going to run both files. It's test home layout. It's the home page layout. Okay, we have 4 tests selected, and they're going to use different fixtures and different page contexts. Which actually brings us to our next topic, Since we have more and more tests, and you will have more tests when you develop your framework, how to run them in parallel. So for this, we are going to use PyTest fixture, not the fixture, but the package called xdist. PyTest xdist will allow you to run your tests in parallel. I have it already installed. In order to invoke this functionality, type dash, just one dash, n, and then the number of threads you want it to run. I'm going to type 2, and as you can see, it's showing you that there are 4 tests, but 2 workers, worker number GW0 and GW1. Okay, we have 2 failures, which is awesome. Yeah, it's strange to hear, but I want to see some failures in our reports that we're going to use. I think I need to switch to my browser to show you that package. Okay, where do I go? All right. Just want to make sure that you see everything on my browser and not just one tab. Let me validate that. Okay, awesome. So there is a package called pytest-report-html1, which is created by Christian Sandberg. Kudos to you. Make sure when you use some of the open source packages, start the project. It's a silent thank you or awesome job in letting the author of open source project know that you're actually an actual human liking the product. It's, you know, I cannot say it's nothing, but it incentivizes a person to create a better product, I think. So make sure you install this package. And don't worry, I have a list of all the packages in my presentation list. Let me switch back. How to do the juggling here back and forth. Hold on a second. I'm switching to my PyCharm. All right. Make sure you install that. All right, I have it installed. You can do either pip install or do it this way if you're using PyCharm. Great. So looking at that page, I'm not going to show you, but when you're going to use that report, make sure you look at documentation on the GitHub. I'm just going to copy that command that we're going to use right here. Okay. So we're going to run it in 2 parallel threads, and we're going to use this template, which is called html1 index.html. Okay, let's run it. Once it finishes, we'll see a new file, which will be called report.html, I think. Okay, awesome. Here it is. I'm going to open it in, of course, Safari. Let me switch back to Safari, guys. Kind of fun doing all that. I like it. Okay. And I'm going to show you test report. All right. Look at this beauty. Isn't it perfect? It shows you all, even this nice diagram that you can see that, okay, quarter of our test is failing. And you can also see what exactly failed in your PyTest test, right? So here we go. This exact line is saying that assertion failed. It's not actually seeing this text verbiage on the page, which is cool. It's super awesome. All right. Good job to whoever created this package. All right. So we slowly moving to the cherry of the first cherry of our presentation, which is visual testing. This is the package that I actually compiled myself, but I cannot take all the credit. This package would not be possible if not for pixel match-py and then PyTest playwright snapshot, which actually I used to fork it from. And this package didn't have the visual representation of your differences, and this is what I added. And I also added a lot of stuff which would potentially break the test for many users. So I decided not to do the PR of this project, but create a separate one. I think that way is better, because I didn't want to step on anyone's toes here. Make sure you start this as well, okay? All right, we're going to move back to PyCharm. Let me switch. Okay. And I have a folder called visual tests, and I have some tests already prepared. So the package uses assert snapshot fixture. And please keep in mind, you don't have to even import anywhere in your files. You don't have to edit in your conftest.py file. This is how awesome it is. Once you install it, it already recognizes this fixture right away. Pretty cool. And all you have to do is pass in page.screenshot inside that function. You know what? I'm going to move visual testing. Okay. Let me cd to visual tests. All right, never mind. So I'm going to run these tests that are called visual. Actually, passing this test name. And I'm going to run it. Something went wrong. Oh, I didn't put the -k parameter. You see, I'm forgetting myself what I'm teaching here. All right. And the first time you run your visual test, it's going to fail. And I did it on purpose, because what if you're creating like 20 or even more snapshots? You cannot just assume that those are correct snapshots that you just taken. What if it's just a white screen? You have to manually go in and review those images. And then the next time you run, it's going to do the actual comparison from your reference snapshots. So let's go here. It should create a snapshot folder. Here we go. Inside that folder, we'll have another folder that bears a name of the test file. Inside that folder, we have a folder that has the name of a test. And inside that, we have the actual PNG file with the browser name inside and the operating system. So we see Chromium and Darwin. Darwin is macOS. If we want to add more browsers, we know how to do that. We're going to run Firefox, and we're going to get one extra screenshot right here. Here we go. Let's look at this. So these are screenshots that I just took from my practice website. Let's make it fail and see what happens. So I'm going to go to the home page. Let's run it. So now what it does is comparing two images pixel by pixel, and if it has probably more than like 5-10 pixels, you can actually put it in your settings, how many pixels you would allow, or what's the threshold of the differences you would allow. And then it's going to fail. But then it would still have to run through these two images to generate the difference image so that you have some nice visual representation. Okay, you have error, snapshots do not match, and we'll have one extra folder here. Let's wait a little bit. Okay, snapshot test failures. And here we go. We have actual, which we just grabbed. We have the expected screenshot, which we were expecting, and the difference, right? As you can see, it's a lot. In case you have some dynamic elements on your page, such as date or maybe username, if you're using different usernames, your tests are going to fail because those pixels are going to be different, right? Playwright has an option to go around that, which is called masking. Let's look at that. Okay. So inside the page screenshot method, you pass in mask parameter type equals, and then it's very important, it uses the list structure, right? So inside this, we put homepage cart icon. And what we're going to do is mask our cart icon, because some users might have 2 items in the cart, some users might have, I don't know how many items, 0, right? We don't want that to spoil our visual test. Let's wait for that snapshot. I think this is the one with masking. Yep. Here we go. We masked this shopping icon. And as you guessed, since it's a list structure of the mask option, we can pass in something else. Homepage dot, and by the way, I'm using this POM structure that I didn't show you. I don't know how we're on time. I might show you a little bit how I structured it. I just followed the guidelines from the Playwright website. Pretty straightforward. We'll look at that. So I'm going to mask shop women menu option as well. So we're going to have 2 different pink blocks. First off, don't forget, when you run it second time, it's going to compare these two. So you either have to delete the screenshot or run the update screenshot argument in your CLI command. Screenshots. Nope. Okay. Update snapshots, right? Snapshot. Okay, let's take a look at that. You can reload, right-click and reload from disk. Okay, yeah. Here we go. We have cart icon masked, and we have this menu option masked as well, which is really cool. You might have your advertisement banners, which are constantly changing, something is blaring there, right? You want to block those if you run in your visual tests. So the application for visual test, I actually use it for smoke testing. Some of the main pages and even elements, you can even get a screenshot of a particular element. I run it as part of the visual because I want to make sure that if I go on this website, everything seems the way it should be, right? Pretty straightforward. I don't want to go and check if button is enabled or this text is present? What if this text is on top of each other, right? And this might happen. The visual test is going to provide you the best kick for your buck, for your time, for anything technically, right? I just love it. Okay, and I promise you to show my POM structure. Let's look at the home page elements. So you create a class, and then you create a init method that is needed because you're going to create instances of the class. And then inside, everything prefixed with self dot, page goes by default, and then all your elements on the page. I called it celebrating beauty header, which has this selector, page.locator, and specific text, right? I have this locator with CSS selector, actually. Or is it a class? I don't remember. That something, I think it's a class. This one is a tag. How many interesting things here? Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next cherry is extension testing. Cool. So for those who don't know, just in case, I'm going to explain what it is about. So the OpenSea is the largest marketplace for NFTs based on the Ethereum type blockchains. I think they're going to introduce Solana blockchain in near future as well. And MetaMask is your wallet. It's one of the most popular wallets that is used. And the way you use it is you download the extension for Chrome or Firefox. So when you perform any type of operation, let me go and try to do something. I think I need to log in. Okay, let me log in. All right. So it's going to show all your funds, all your NFTs that you have. And for example, I want to cancel this listing, right? I have this NFT and hey, I want to cancel it. So in the blockchain world, you have to approve every transaction, sign it, and so to speak. And to automate the extension pop-ups is very, very hard. And we're going to look at how Playwright team went around that. And I just realized I probably didn't share my screen. Hold on, give me a second. I forgot to switch to Chrome. Let me switch real quick. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. OpenSea. If you have your items that you created or belong to you, you want to perform some kind of operation on them. In this case, this is the NFT that I created, and I want to cancel listing, right? I don't want to sell it anymore. Or the opposite, I want to sell it. So the thing is with OpenSea is that you cannot just set same price for your 10,000 NFTs. If you decided to create like I did, and then there was a question, oh my God, how do I automate putting price on all of those? Because you have to do it one by one. It's there's no way you're going to do it manually. So for this, you can use Playwright, and they're going to use a workaround where you would sign messages not in the form of pop-ups like shown here, because I don't know any tools that would easily automate extension pop-ups. It's pretty hard. So let's switch back to PyCharm. Let me just change my window I'm sharing. Okay. I'm back to PyCharm, I hope. Yeah, great. So I have this separate folder, extension testing. So one thing you need to keep in mind that you want your actual extension files or artifacts be present in the folder where you're testing it, right? So you can go on the extension creator website and download zip that they provide. Most of them should be able to allow this. MetaMask is on GitHub, so I downloaded the extension as a zip file, and then make sure you unpack it and place it where you're going to test it. I have this file called run extension. So the first thing you want to do is specify a path to your extension. Dot slash is that same directory where your file located in. And then we are going to create a test. In this particular case, Playwright suggests using launch persistent context method, where along with the other cool attributes, you're using this one called disable extensions, except the one that you specified in your path, which is MetaMask in our example. Then what Playwright does, it creates a page based on that context, and it's going to wait for that page to load. So this first page that I'm creating is actually a MetaMask window. It's going to open as a separate window in the tab. So it's not going to be a pop-up, which is very important. If we have MetaMask opened as a regular window, we can automate it as a regular page, like anything. I'm going to have all this code in the repository. I'm going to call it Zapple Meetup Playwright. I will leave all the links so you can download this code and you can look at this, right? So don't worry if you didn't look at everything that I'm showing right now. It's all going to be available, okay? So here I'm going to log into my MetaMask account and proceed with my testing. Very important to note, if you run it for the first time, you need to import your secret key, which is usually a 12-word secret key that you need to insert in the different boxes. You probably know what I mean if you dealt with MetaMask before. But this has to be done only once. So Chromium and MetaMask will cache your information, and then you don't have to do it for quite some time, right? So then after that, I'm creating page number 2. And the page number 2 is what I'll be using to actual website of my token. And after I go there, I make sure that I load the same storage session along with MetaMask account, and make sure that I don't see the buy now button. And if I don't see it and I see the cancel listing, that means this item belongs to me, right? So in this case, I'm canceling items, but in yours might be putting them up on sale. So it would be kind of like reversed, right? So you just have to do all the selling automation steps. And guess what? I captured the video of that just in case something goes wrong. Can you imagine? And I'm going to run it. Let me just switch to that, because there is no reason for me to run it now if you cannot see what is happening. This is a bummer. Okay, I have that. Let me switch my QuickTime. I'm just waiting it to appear. Okay, great. I have it. So let's run that and see what is happening. It's going to open a Chromium. Then it opens a MetaMask. It was quite fast, probably. So first it was buy now option because MetaMask still didn't load my profile information. So I'm going to reload the page, and I have cancel listing. Okay, I have cancel listing, and I also have this pop-up, which is impossible to automate as of now. So what Playwright is going to do, it's going to switch back to MetaMask tab. Even on the background, you won't see what is happening there, but there is a button that is going to be same button that's on the extension pop-up, and it's going to approve that button. Okay, and since you see sell button, that means I canceled my listing and everything went successful. This is my MetaMask. And you can see it, I canceled the listing 11 seconds ago. All right, great. I think that will conclude our session. I can say that please contact with me on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and let me just share my presentation file. Okay, I have the list of packages here, and yeah, contact with me on YouTube. I don't have many videos just yet, but I am planning to create a wide range of videos on other tips and tricks on automation testing. Also, somewhere in the fall time, I think I will be making a video of how to generate 10,000 unique NFTs and all automated. So you probably heard of like Bored Ape Yacht Club, of those JPEG files, which is really cool. But I think it's even also awesome to have 10,000 unique automated NFTs to have and to know how to generate those using, guess what, Python. So yeah, this is going to be quite a challenge. It's going to be an interesting one. And thank you for having me. I guess we're going to wait for Paul to come back.
Yeah, I'm back over here. Thank you very much, Simon. I think we might have maybe a minute or two to address probably one question. So I'm going to take a look. We had Alexei Zurov was asking, how are you overcoming threading problems for XDist? For example, two different tests in different threads are trying to change one account. Is there anything you can think about, any answer you might be able to give Alexei on that?
Yeah. So there are actually two different parallel packages for PyTest. I know one is XDist that I'm using. The other one is PyTest Parallel, right? And I use the XDist because it probably offers you better encapsulation of your tests so that they don't overrun into each other. It's a tricky question. So the way I would approach that, in the way I'm approaching it currently, is to make sure that all the tests that I run in two different threads using different contexts, right? So if I'm using this context for user one, I can only touch these certain accounts. I'm not going to touch account that from 1 to 5, and the user two is not going to touch accounts from 5 to 10, for example.
Okay.
So that way they might not run into these kind of problems.
Okay.
But yeah,
Sounds
look
good.
into, I think it's called PyTest Parallel, something to look at.
Okay.
This is the package.
Great.
Also.
Great. I wish we had time to answer to do a lot more questions. This is some great stuff. I'm going to start looking into NFTs myself. This has been a fantastic demo. And by the way, there was a question: is this session being recorded? Yes, it will. I'm told I think it's going to be available on the 9th. So do keep an ear out for that. Simon, I really appreciate you coming down here and doing a live demo. I love a live demo, so that's cheers to you, man. It's something I love to do. And I'm just going to kind of wrap it up over here. Thank you, everybody who's joined today. I hope you had got some entertainment, learned a lot of cool stuff, new things. And we're going to wrap up this meeting here. And we'll catch you. I guess there's another one coming up in a month or so. So take care. Have yourself a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.